obviously we had a catch-up in the morning. Any contact from Frank Warren's team or Frank?
Someone sent me the tweet saying, oh, with all these, this is what it's like backwards and forwards, it's so boring. But someone said, oh, he left a message, come out of the press conference, checked my voicemail, he had left a message, gave him a buzz and just said, listen, once we've got fight camp out of the way, you know, and we're through August and, you know, in September we'll have a chat. Don't mind, no problem having a bite to eat with him, you know. Lots to discuss, lots of issues to get out of the way. We're a million miles away from making any fights, but no problem in having a bit of grub and discussing it. So we'll see what happens in September once fight camp's out of the way.
So obviously you're focusing on this week.
I'm not just focusing on this week, I'm focusing on saving boxing. Because sport is fucked. And if you look at the viewing figures coming back right now, the sport is in a horrendous position. All of a sudden we come back with fight camp and we're the saviours. So of course everyone wants to grab hold and, you know, etc, etc. But all I'm focusing on is the business and our fighters delivering opportunities for them. And I'm so deeply invested in that right now, nothing can get in my lane. But I understand there are some fights to be made there. Like I said, we had a chat, no problem in meeting up to discuss. Right now I'm 100% focused on fight camp and getting ourselves into a position of maintaining the greatness of the sport of boxing. But more than happy to discuss some of the fights on there, and we will get together and discuss it.
That is big news for fight fans.
Those are the words of Eddie Hearn in regards of talking to Frank Warren on the phone, and I think this is historic. I know Eddie Hearn is focused on other things like saving boxing, as he says, but people need to understand the rivalry, the silent Cold War between Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren. These, like, you have BT Sports, mostly Frank Warren deals with them, MTK Global, you know, where you have Eddie Hearn Matchroom, and they're with Sky Sports, you know, which is kind of like HBO and Showtime over there, you guys know of. And these guys have never really spoken. You know, you've heard some things. We even heard recently that Frank Warren agreed to fight him or something like that. It's just crazy. You know, those type of things were going on. It just shows you the type of rivalry and deep-rooted bad blood between the two promoters. And then for one, they decide to sit down or agree to sit down to talk about possible fights. Now, it looks promising. You know, if anything, it's definitely career-changing. However, I don't put too much faith into what Eddie Hearn said, okay? Me counterpunching, and I'm going to explain why, okay? I think Eddie Hearn is focused on, when he says saving boxing, I think he's more focused on getting his string of fighters together to make sure they successfully can fight and with proper opponents he knows that he can manage before going over with something experimental, especially during this time, which makes sense. Because if you're already having problems doing something that you love to do and something that you were so successful with doing before, which was booking fights, promoting these fights, having these fights, right? And getting these fighters paid, the time we're in right now, it makes that even damn near impossible. Because the numbers are down, people want to fight, people are looking for certain types of assurances, which is the networks. But if these gates, if they're gateless, it's hard for those networks to get their money for them to even broadcast the thing. Okay, so it's one of those things where boxing is getting scarce, and it's just making it damn near impossible the way of the structure on how boxing is structured, where the live gate and how much money the network could make versus how much money that they pay the fighters. And a lot of times they depend on the gate to pay the fighters and ensure a certain amount of money. Well, if there's no gate, a whole stream of revenue goes away, just goes away, right? So I think Eddie's more concerned with, hey, how do we work around that and really deal with not having that stream of revenue so everyone can be happy, okay? Then there's those other fights over there, you know? And I think Frank Warren, where he was getting at, I think he was getting at more of, okay, hey, I need him, he needs me, so we can get these fighters together, because people are going to want to watch the best fights right now because people are cooped in. People can't go live and watch those fights live like they're so accustomed to doing with all the fiery energy in the UK. They can't show that. They can't even see that. That kills the human spirit, honestly, to me. You know, so this is probably one of the worst epidemics, you know what I mean, that I know that we've witnessed in our lifetime, you know what I mean, unless you were over 100 years old, right? And even you won't remember it, you know, the Spanish flu. But it is a big breakthrough for Eddie Hearn to speak on the phone with Frank Warren, probably for the first time ever. I don't recall them ever speaking before. I could be wrong, but I don't recall them ever speaking. It feels like, to me, it's like the first time Manny Pacquiao met Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather met Manny Pacquiao, right? It was a breakthrough, and what happened because of that? The fight happened that made millions. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think about Eddie Hearn speaking on the phone with Frank Warren, discussing possible sit-downs for other possible fights. Of course, please subscribe, hit the like button, and you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.